Most Christians try to live Christian lives, some systematically, some erratically. Not a bad thing to do, but what God may be looking for is for us to open ourselves to His Spirit and leadership. That means letting God work through us. That's inspiring us, having His Spirit at work in and through us. When we do that, we're rather more likely to be doing what He wants us to do, rather than using our idea of what He wants and pushing that through. A good example is the human drive for legislated alcohol prohibition. Our idea was, still may be, that less effective than Alcoholics Anonymous. Perhaps His Spirit is moving in AA into us, but not perhaps so much through a law we pass. We're quite aware of the word sin, which in all instances means acting in our way, by our direction, not God's. We also understand what it is to be rebellious towards God. Similarly, we are quite clear on the picture of an evil man, one who deliberately harms or distresses another person. This is the Practicing Christian, and our report this week is on ways God works through us. A Christian man I know named Jeffrey works with the convoluted and sometimes stressed members of his family using prayer and the monitions of the Spirit to guide him. Problems of uncertain parentage, divorce, and so forth have been ameliorated this way. But it certainly takes patience and devotion as God works through him in helping to heal his mixed-up family. If we are to be as effective as he is, besides time and patience, we need to practice listening for God's silent voice. This is not easy. We also must practice watching carefully to see where God is moving in others. That may be at a slower pace than we wish, but it's likely to be more effective in its results. Being able to listen for crises and cries and mutual longing for help is often important. Most people who are seriously contemplating suicide are sending out disguised messages to the people around them for some time. If we're talking at them, we can't hear what they may be trying to communicate to us. The woman at the well may not have been suicidal, but she was sending out cries for help that Jesus could read by listening deeply to her. It's also true that God tailors his calls within us to act as his agents by what he knows of us. Many couples who have wanted children and who look forward to rearing citizens for his kingdom and who have been unable to do so have heard God calling on them to consider adoption. Others have not, when God has had other work for them to do, or has not seen them as parents for one reason or another. There are many ways we may help build the kingdom of God if we do what the old railway sign said: stop, look, listen. As a child in the Northeast, I heard of many couples planning vacations who were discussing if they wanted to go to the mountains or the shore. They often failed to see there were dozens, if not hundreds, of other choices. So it is with God's kingdom. We just have to take time to listen for the Spirit. After all of us come to his kingdom that way. No one is born into it. We are all adopted. The successful salesman, to his two key memory lines, which are, "What can I do for you?" and "Ask for the order." Each is related to one another. You move to a new town and you get a new neighbor, and without being nosy, it's likely you eventually become privy to some personal knowledge, such as that your neighbor or his wife has a serious illness and may not live more than 4 years or so more, or that he or she has, or you have, a child disinclined to be a strong learner at school. He just wants to finish high school and get a job. With any questions such as these, you can be an instrument of healing and growth. You may know researchers or have information that can help with an illness. You may suggest to the young man that the military has opportunities to work and study together, not just with weapons, but with coding, systems management, and much more. It's not uncommon for a friend to have some knowledge about an illness that can be passed on to another, or that there's an opportunity for one family or the other to offer child care services for a time, or that you may be the only people willing to listen at times to a man's grief, a woman's grief over her forthcoming death. Or many others listened, but no one but you has offered to pray for her and for him and his family as well. None of this involves interfering, being pushy, or any other intrusive action. It does involve being a caring person, and at times, at least, a friend. And asking key questions like, is anyone else helping you get through this? Or, does your son like mechanics or electronics? These questions can open many doors. There also may be very unusual requests from God. The Lord Sabaoth, the God of battles, to you. Many ex-soldiers have been drawn to pick up and go to Ukraine to help the people there fight back against that cruel invasion. Jesus' great commandment was to love our brothers as we love ourselves. Do you remember the salesman's reminders we mentioned earlier? With God's people, you can always ask, how may I serve you? And tell me what I can do. Serve then. Be the king's right arm.